Alrighty. We have a wonderful guest for a technical topic today. We have Petrus from Purdue University, and his technical topic is integrated crop covering and soil amendment strategies for sustainable nutrient management in vegetable production systems. And we're basically just going to hear him out, let him give his presentation, and he encourages you all to ask questions. Um, yeah, raise your hand with that emoji down there. And yeah, let's get started. All right.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here today to talk to you guys. And yeah, please feel free to stop me anytime if you have a question. Let me see if I can get my screen going here. Do you see the right screen?
Yes, we do.
Perfect.
I think you're in the other
That
one.
one?
There we go. Yep.
Oh,
That's
I need to go to the beginning. I don't know why this the end. Sorry about that. Okay, so Nathan Schoaf and I, we started thinking about this work in 2019 and submitted an AFRI grant. And then, of course, COVID came, and we thought that it was actually very timely because if you remember correctly, during that time, fertilizer prices spiked quite a bit, and it became even more evident that we need to try to make our own fertilizer or soil fertility on the farm, or try to conserve what we actually have on the farm to make that bottom line work. It's not always that sustainable to ship fertility in from other locations, and that's really what prompted us in doing this. We wanted to look at a mixed system approach, and that's really something that has been part of my philosophy in the past. Is yes, I do love organic farming and the principles. I also do like conventional farming methods quite well, and I think we wanted to see if there's some place where these two systems could meet, and we can use certain portions of each system to make a perfect system. From surveys that we've done, and even a current one that you can see there, the 2016 survey that Torres and Marshall did, it showed that farms are not certifying as much because the cost is so high. But they do want to subscribe to that organic soil practice. And sometimes it's just a matter of nutrients. And we know on organic farms, nitrogen could most often be a huge limitation. And on the other hand, phosphorus could be in excess on the farm. So we wanted to play around with that a little bit. We do know the value of cover crops, so we wanted to include some cover crops in our work. Yeah, so this is the project that we initiated. Taking the next step as a small and medium-sized farm, understanding the integration of production, food safety, and profitability. And basically, it is made up of three pillars: the business component, which is handled by Marie Marshall; the production component, myself and Nathan Schoaf; and food safety, Betty Feng was looking at that aspect. And we wanted to understand how decision-making on the farm is influenced by outside factors, but also factors on the farm itself. For the production component, we really wanted to see how cover crops, organic and conventional practice, can be utilized to improve soil factors and understand the effect of compost materials on soil health, and then come up with some best management practices and develop some nutrient management strategies. We also wanted to look at pepper production and then develop this intensive sustainable production extension manual. We've done some of those. We haven't done all of it. We haven't finished digging through the entire treasure trove of data that we have. The field work ended last year, and this year we are using the time to dig more into the data. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we have seen so far. Okay, so let me put my little laser pointer on. For those of you, sorry, I don't know what I'm doing now. Why am I annotating? Laser pointer, there we go. Oh, not working.
We can see your cursor.
You can see the cursor, fantastic. We had 3 locations in Indiana, and since Indiana is such a long state, it was, I think, to our benefit in some ways, because we know the southern part of the state warms up a lot earlier in the season, so their growing season is a little longer. Soil, of course, is also quite different. So here in Vincennes, for instance, we had this Wisconsin outwash, quite a low organic matter percentage, 1.4. In West Lafayette, West Central Indiana, we had a loamy Wisconsin till, much higher, almost double the amount of organic matter, and it's a much heavier soil as well. And then in Valparaiso, which we know is taking a lot longer to warm up in the spring, and the season is a little shorter. Conditions are a little different up there. We also had a soil based out of Wisconsin outwash. It was a sandy loam, just like the loamy soil we had in Vincennes, quite a low organic matter content. But ideally, I mean, all soils, looking at the soil analysis initially was good to grow in. We did find out some things along the way. Now, for some reason, my slideshow doesn't want to progress. These were the treatments we were looking at. And looking at it, just immediately you will notice that it's quite a few. And maybe we did put too many treatments in there, but we wanted to see many things and compare many things. So we wanted to have some kind of controls where we only use organic nutrients or conventional nutrients. We wanted to use plant-based compost and manure-based compost. Now, we all know that plant-based compost do lack quite a bit in nitrogen. So to make the playing field a little bit more level between the treatments, we did adjust the nitrogen treatments to, or the nitrogen level in the plant-based and manure-based compost to be on the same level as the other treatments that we applied. We wanted some cover crops. So we had mustard, sun hemp, and sorghum as cover crops. And we had another iteration of that. The difference is in the first fall winter period, we didn't put a fall winter cover crop in, which was made up of cereal rye and hairy veg. Although the hairy veg in hindsight didn't add a huge amount of value because you really had to grow it out a longer time in the spring to actually get the benefit of nitrogen fixing. So we terminated the fall winter cover crop in April, so it didn't have enough time. Although some years we had great germination of hairy veg and other years not. It depended really on the season itself. Yeah, and then the last set of treatments, again, cover crops, and then a treatment where we combine conventional and organic fertility nutrients with that first year of fall, winter, and then for the next 4 years. Okay, so this is what the research site looked like in Lafayette. It was similar in the other 2 locations. Basically, we had the 3 replicates and we had 3 pepper varieties, 1 in each bed. So we tried to keep to commercial kind of spacing that we used here, 6.5 feet between beds and 18 inches between each plant on the bed. We had a barrier of about 10 feet between beds, so if there's any runoff of fertilizer, it doesn't affect the other bed. But, you know, as everything, nothing really goes perfect every year. Weather can impact things, and you can see a little bit of a depression here in the lower end of the field. We did get some water accumulation there, although it did drain out after a day or so whenever we had a heavy downpour. So looking at fertility, we had spring and fall samples that we took to see what the effect in the spring is, leftovers from the fall or the previous year's crop. And then in the fall, we take samples again to see what is left over from what we applied and what was in the soil in the springtime. We used Brookside Laboratories in Ohio, and we performed the Haney test. So not sure if everybody's familiar with the Haney test. Haney was a scientist at the USDA that developed this soil health test for agronomic crops, so mainly for corn and beans. But there's no other test that's specifically aimed towards recommendations for vegetable crops in terms of soil health. We felt that we can still use the data coming out of this test as a basis for what we are looking at. And basically, the Haney test measures water extractable nutrients, water extractable organic carbon, water extractable organic nitrogen, uses the ratio thereof, also establishes the 1-day soil respiration rate, which is an indication of soil microbial activity. And using that within a formula, it will calculate a soil health score for you. So yeah, it was pretty useful and very intensive. There's a lot of data. Macro and micronutrients are being analyzed, and it was so super useful. So in terms of soil amendments, we applied pre-plant in bed rows. I will have some pictures later on to show you. Before we actually made the raised beds, everything was adjusted to soil test values. And the plant and manure-based compost was also applied on the bed tops before the beds were made. And it ranged, depending on the need, between 1 and 1.5 cubic feet per 20-foot bed. Then we had at Lafayette, our mustard cover crop treatment didn't work because of poor germination. We decided to do a broadcasted application of a compost that was made up of animal manure and leaf mold, and broadcasted it over the entire 20 by 20 plot. So that's quite a heavy application, between 1 and 2. Oh, that's not cubic feet, that should be cubic yards. So quite a bit of compost per 400 square foot block. In terms of what fertilizers we used, organic fertilizer with sustained products, and potash from Ohio Earth Foods. Conventional fertilizer, we use urea, diammonium phosphate, and potash. Compost treatments, we wanted a reliable source that has a little bit of control over the batches, so it doesn't vary quite much between years. So we choose to use Morgan Composting, the vegan do for the plant-based and dairy do for the animal or manure-based compost. That bigger, a lot of compost application was from R&R Topsoil here in Lafayette. For the cover crop treatments, year 1, we provided them with sustain at 60 pounds of nitrogen per acre. It's always good to fertilize your cover crop a little bit if you want to get that extra biomass. And of course, the following years, we didn't have a summer cover crop treatment, but nutrients were applied as needed, depending on the treatment itself. Fall and winter cover crops didn't get any fertility amendments. Looking at some average soil or soil nutrient content, if you look at what is in the soil and what we apply in the spring, this is across all treatments, so it's not an indication of the treatment itself. It might vary a bit. But yeah, so Wanatah, Saints and Lafayette, it was more or less the same across the board. Average-wise, 23, we had to start scale down phosphorus here in Lafayette because we were running pretty high because of that high compost applications that we had. So we didn't apply any phosphorus in 23 and 24 at Lafayette. At Vincennes, we didn't apply any in the last year. And in Wanatah, also phosphorus and potassium in the last year was not applied. So this is what the treatment plots looked like. There is the compost banded. And so after that, we will come in and do our raised bed. We have mustard here, sorghum. Mustard, just to play around with it a little bit more, we wanted to do a biofumigation, anaerobic soil disinfestation treatment. Not that it added a whole lot of value to this specific experiment, although we did see quite a bit of reduced weed activity after that treatment. But the following year, after you tilled the ground, the weeds were back again. So it didn't add a whole bunch of value, and it didn't reduce soil microbial activity that much. But quite a bit of biomass. We might have cut this a little bit too late. You can see flowering has progressed quite a bit on this. And usually when the plant is in more or less full bloom, that's when you do want to cut it down when the glucosinolate levels are at its highest. Sorghum Sudangrass, we cut that 3 times during the season. This is what the biomass look like on the ground after you have some regrowth again. It really worked well. Thing with the sorghum Sudangrass is it's got a huge amount of roots, which is good in many ways for preventing soil erosion, those kind of things. But thinking about that next crop that you want to put in the ground, if there's anything you want to seed, direct seed after that, it will be pretty problematic. Sun hemp, quite a bit of mulch after we cut it, only once during flowering, although that material also disappears pretty quickly. The other thing about sun hemp is once you let it go into bloom and you have an older plant, it's very stringy and it's very hard to terminate with a flail mower or even with a bush hog. That material will just wound up around the flail mower and it creates a lot of headaches.
Petrus, I have a couple questions.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have a question. Are you using 100% rates of sorghum, sun hemp, etc., not mixes?
Yes, it's just pure blend, pure sorghum or mustard or sun hemp that we used. Yes.
Okay. And then I wanted if you could explain to some people what biofumigation is.
Okay, so biofumigation is where you try to create an anaerobic situation in the top layer of the soil that will kill off pathogens. There's documented situations or scenarios where it helped reduce nematode populations and also weed pressure. But yeah, in most cases, it's used for disease management, especially in very intensive systems like strawberries, or Ohio State has done a lot of work where they use anaerobic soil disinfestation in high tunnels quite a bit. So yeah. Does that answer the questions anymore?
Nope, nothing else. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah, we had some students helping us putting the fertility treatments out. After we've done that, we will come in with the machine to make our raised bed. So in 21, we did not do, that's the first year of the experiment, we did not do raised bed, plastic mulch raised beds. We wanted to do a more organic approach, and we just couldn't manage the organic approach that well. As you guys can see, we had quite a bit of weed pressure. We also had loss of nutrients. I think that was the most valuable lesson initially, is the loss of nutrients from these raised beds during heavy rain events. So that created a lot of negative effects in terms of plant health. But yeah, I don't think we should necessarily think of weeds as a negative. If you handle it like a cover crop, you cut it regularly, it could be of benefit. It keeps the soil together, it keeps the soil covered. You can still produce biomass on that. But we just didn't have the labor or the time to deal with that all the time. Here you can see some of the nutrient loss, and this was a plant-based compost treatment in the front of this picture. In the back, and you see the conventional versus organic fertility treatment. It's a little bit darker and it looks a whole lot better. But yeah, so when we started mulching the stuff, peppers were looking so much better. We could contain our nutrients. But then at our field day in 2022, one grower was asking, why do the plastic so sterile? If we want to be more sustainable, why are we looking at these clean rows? It just happened to be that year was a super dry year. June and July was very dry, so nothing really grew in between the rows. But we took their suggestion to heart, and we decided to put some buckwheat in the middle rows just to keep the soil covered for a little bit. So right after this picture was taken, we terminated the buckwheat so that it doesn't compete with the peppers. If you have the buckwheat go a little bit longer, you might even have seed, and it will reseed itself and it will come back again. But it's not really a cover crop that interferes a lot with your production, and it scavenges nutrients and just keep it there. And it's like they say, the more days you have roots in the ground, the better it is for microbial activity in the ground. So we wanted to see what was going on there. We also had some yes.
Oh, we have another couple questions.
Okay.
Can you share more about cover crop termination? It looks like you used a flail mower to chop it up, and then was that residue that you chopped up tilled in at all in the fall, or no?
The last question, was it the residue that was chopped up?
Yeah, did you till it in the fall?
Correct. Yes. So yeah, the termination, we had a small PCS flail mower that we used to do that. I know not all farms have that equipment piece. The real value of that equipment piece is that it really chops the material up in fine pieces, 2 to 4 inch pieces, so it decomposes pretty easily. But you can also use a bush hog or any other machine to terminate. Of course, all of those crops that we planted will be frost terminated. So if it gets cold, they will get killed off anyway. But yeah, we did have to cut it up to till it in the fall so it can decompose during the fall and into the next season.
Do you have to till it in, or why did you choose to till it in?
There was some research that ECHO in the Department of Agronomy did, and they actually found that corn leftover residue that's sitting on the ground throughout the winter time. And I know this is a big debate. Do you till it in or not? You don't want to disturb the soil because then you get blowing soil and all sorts of other negative effects. But they have found that it also releases carbon into the atmosphere again. And if you actually till it in, you can conserve it in the ground. So I think, if you roller crimp, sure. That mat of material, obviously we didn't have one of the crops that really is suitable for roller crimping. although there is a little bit of work going on from other researchers looking at the roller crimping sun hemp. And to a certain extent, it actually worked really well because that material stayed all the way into the spring. They planted some garlic in the fall into that roller crimped hemp, and it worked perfectly. So, there are ways to deal with it if you don't want to till it into the ground. We just felt in our situation, since we had to till all the plots, that we needed to get it all tilled in.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, just so people know maybe the why behind it.
Okay.
Another question is, how did you terminate the buckwheat? Did you mention that?
The buckwheat was also just the bed, the alleys were wide enough so we can just go down with a flail mower and
Okay.
till it quickly. But I'm sure you can roller crump it too. The buckwheat is so soft and tender, it will probably very easily terminate with a roller crumper.
So it wasn't a big deal when people were walking along the path?
No, in fact, if you're allergic to bees, then don't plant buckwheat because there's a lot of bees in the field. I'm telling you, it's amazing. Yeah. Very
That is
beneficial.
right. And then another point, one thing noted at the student farm and in these field trials is that there is no use of natural mulches, and Terry's just wondering why you guys prefer the plastic mulch versus natural.
Yeah, so in this specific case, it's just easy to use the plastic mulch. We were at a scale that was too large for us, and we were only 3 people doing this work, and so to do natural mulching would have been incredibly time consuming for us. So it was convenience in this experiment that we used plastic mulch. At the student farm, yeah, so you can use wheat straw and those kind of things as a natural mulch, but then you really have to make sure that the source of wheat straw is known to you, and that no herbicides are being caught up in that wheat straw, or that you have a lot of wheat seeds caught up in it as well, because that will just bring more weeds to your farm, or the herbicides might leach out of that wheat straw. So yeah, I think it just, in our 2 instances, it just complicated things, so we don't do that. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, like I said, we had some disasters as well. You can see there's a whole bunch of pooling happening here. But yeah, it drains out pretty quickly after that. And these are the varieties we planted. Flavor Burst, I will really just talk about that one, because Flavor Burst is the one that we used throughout the entire 4-year study. We used Carmen as well, and Marcato. Marcato is very susceptible to bacterial leaf spot, and it devastated our crops in Wanata. So I had to find a replacement. This tarpon and sailfish is resistant to bacterial leaf spot, and it did really well, but we only used it for 1 year. So yeah, we had a lot of peppers that we harvested, and all of this was donated to the food banks wherever we were working at. There's termination in the fall. We will cut with a bush hog the material on the beds, lift the plastic out of the ground. There's the plastic lifted, and then we will come in and till the material in. At Lafayette, we used a spading machine. It works about 4 to 6 inches deep. At the other 2 locations, we used a disc plow to get the material in. And then we seeded our fall cover crop in these different blocks as per treatment. And here you can see the mix of hairy veg and cereal rye. And that is terminated in the spring. Now, we have a few minutes left. I'm going to see if we can get through some of this information. So, looking at total available nitrogen, in all cases, it was highest in the first year, and then it depleted quite a bit. In Vincennes, it was really low in the subsequent years. And this is now measuring in the spring and fall and averages of that over all the treatments. At Lafayette, we had also quite a good number in the first year, and then slightly or quite a bit lower in the second year, but better than at Vincennes. But still, not very good results. This was one of the demises of the work and really showed us how important nitrogen is to keep your soil health levels up. Phosphorus was not an issue. We managed easily to increase that, and it came down over time. Remember, we didn't apply any phosphorus here or here. At Lafayette, look at this number. The top bar is 400. We had very high, and these are averages. We had very high phosphorus numbers at Lafayette. Potassium overall was pretty good. The last year, it tapered off quite a bit since we didn't apply much. We wanted to mine some of that a little bit. Looking at soil respiration, with our treatments, we really jumped from a low to a much higher soil respiration in the second year, and that was for all 3 locations. And then a gradual decrease up to the last year at Wanata and at Lafayette. But Vincennes, it just dropped down to nothing almost. And that was really the nitrogen had a huge impact there. But yeah, soil respiration, this is still very low, 100. I think you want it closer to 300. That's a more ideal soil respiration rate. So yeah, for all technical reasons, we can see that at Wanata and Vincennes, the soil was pretty dead, as I would say.
Can you explain what soil respiration is for people and how you measure it, or at least what it indicates?
Yeah, so the test that's being done is a Solvita one-day soil respiration test. Basically, they will dry a known amount of soil, and then they will add a known amount of water to that in a glass jar. They will cover it, and then they measure over a 24-hour period how much carbon dioxide is produced from the activity in the soil, and they use that as an indication as to what the microbial activity in the soil is. So yeah, it's directly linked to microbial activity. So yeah, we can see with our cover crop treatments, these top ones, they performed really well at Wanata in terms of improving soil respiration compared to, say, for instance, your conventional treatment. At Vincennes, we had a bit of a mixed effect, and I think climate played a huge role in the outcome of this. But yeah, we had a bit of a different set of results, although cover cropping during the summer and then starting at the first year's fall winter cover cropping had good impacts. Now at mix, we had great impact already. I mean, the soil was already good when we started off with it. And if you look at the number here at the bottom, that's 80. Look at the previous graph, that's 40. So we had really much higher soil respiration rates at Lafayette, and these heavy 1 and 2 cubic yard compost treatments outperformed even the cover crop treatments. But we know what's coming with this high compost application rates, and that is high phosphorus. But so yeah, it looks like cover crops really do well. Spring and fall measurements of soil respiration. Of course, it will be a little cooler in the spring, especially up at Chicago, that Wanata, Valparaiso area. So activity is really dependent on, microbial activity is really dependent on the soil temperature. We took samples in May at all locations, so it's natural that spring activity will be a little bit lower than fall. In Wanata, Vincennes was the opposite, because in May it was already a lot warmer than at Wanata, so spring was a little bit more active than fall. And then at Lafayette, we also had a lower spring activity compared to the fall. So looking at soil health itself, and this is at Wanata, and I'm just going to quickly talk about trends here. This is the starting year, 21. We can see we improved it quite a bit. If you look at the starting year, 7 is the regarded, 7 and below is regarded dead soil. So yeah, this is soil that's cropped with corn and beans all the time. And we came on it with vegetables and tried to improve it. And the soil was really dead. We managed to improve it quite a bit with the cover crop treatments. And then you can see in 23, it held up a little bit, but it started to go down. In 24, it really started to go down. At Vincennes, the soil was also pretty much dead. We managed to improve that slightly in 22, and then in 23 and 24, it really tapered down quite a bit. At Lafayette, we had quite the impact. Soil was also quite dead here for most of the treatments before we started. And then in 22, after those measurements, we almost doubled, even more than doubled some of the soil health calculations that we got. And I would say, you know, soil health will be much better if you're around a 30 level. So we were pretty much up there and improved it quite a bit, but you can see how the cover crop treatments really hold its place compared to the compost treatments. And that effect lasted almost another year, and then 24, it really tapered down again. This was also something that we noticed at all 3 locations. We looked at the correlation between soil health and soil respiration. So as your soil respiration increases, your soil health score is a direct relationship between those two, which is great to know. But it's not completely new information, but it was just great to see from these sites. Production, we also had our best production in 22 when we improved the soil health quite a bit. Production at Lafayette was double from these other locations. So we just had better soil, better climate, better results here. The culls, the percent culls was really impacted quite a lot by disease pressure at Vincennes and Wanata. As I said, it was bacterial leaf spot in Wanata, Phytophthora blight, and Fusarium at Vincennes. Lafayette, we had very little. So anything that was bad here was really more abiotic related. So some key takeaways just to finish off. Weather and seasonal variability over the 4 years really did impact our results, and we still have to find the connections there. We had some cover crop germination issues, weed pressure and nutrient loss due to rain, heavy rain events during that first year. But then we used mulch, and we also applied an herbicide, Dill Magnum, to get rid of grass. We were not so concerned about the broadleaves because that we could hoe out. So we just wanted to make sure we could control the grasses to make the workload easier for us. And living crops in the alleys really helped quite a bit. But I think what was really standing out from this work was that cover crops can provide you a similar benefit to soil health than what compost can do. And it might be a better long-term solution. And it might be more sustainable because now you don't have to truck compost into your farm, which could be quite expensive, and making it will also be quite expensive if you do it on your farm. But if you have land that you can have sit idle and put a cover crop on that and do that every second or third year, that might actually get you some long-lasting soil health benefits. Let's see here. So yeah, we had quite the improvement in soil health as we saw with those graphs. But despite those initial improvements, we did get a decline in 2023. Lafayette was 14%, Vincennes 8%, and Wanata declined by 30%. So And that was really due to a decrease in water extractable organic nitrogen and water extractable organic carbon. And all of these things that I said in the beginning that any test look at is actually things that's readily available to microbes to use. So it's not your normal soil test compared to like an A&L labs do and so on. Okay, so nitrogen was challenging, and it remains to be seen how we can improve that. And ideally, we would want to have a more diverse rotation. Of course, putting peppers on peppers is not ideal, but for the experimental purposes, we had to do that. So thank you so much. And yeah, let me know if you have more questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Petrus. I'm just waiting on a question of why did soil health decrease in 2024, whether you had answered it enough for them or not.
Yeah, so the main thing that contributed to that was the available nitrogen in the ground. So there was too much carbon compared to the nitrogen, so not enough energy or fuel for the microbes to consume the energy that was in the soil. So that really affected the score negatively.
Thank you. What about any other people? Do you guys have any questions or curiosities? I would be so interested and curious how before you all started in 2021, each of those fields probably had, because of their practices before, did you all do any soil tests to get a marker of how those practices had some kind of causation effect in comparison to the change in practices? I'd just be very curious about that.
Yeah, no, we actually didn't do that. And even though Meigs is a horticulture farm, they do plant corn and beans there too in rotation with vegetables. So yeah, I didn't look at that. But obviously it has some effect, because if you till your ground all the time and you just do corn and beans all the time, you probably not improving your soil health. And even the farm superintendent up at Wanata was saying, oh, maybe we should do a lot more cover cropping after looking at the results, you know.
That's the result you want anyway, just change
Exactly.
practices. That's amazing. I mean, it's a great demonstration of how you can at least move towards some kind of increase in soil health in some form or another.
Yeah, and I think this is very applicable from the smallest grower to the large scale grower, you know, so you can employ some of this information at any level of production.
Yeah. And we have another question. Sorry, I have people downstairs. Is there any research that demonstrates the correlation between livestock on pasture in terms of the soil nutrient values reflected in the blood levels, phosphorus, calcium ratios, minerals, etc., on which stocks graze?
Yeah, we actually have faculty member Maria Belinki that is currently doing that research. She is using sheep to graze cover crops and then plant tomatoes after that. And this is her second year. So I will keep my eyes out for anything coming out of that. So yeah, that should be interesting. All I know she told me is that there wasn't enough food for the sheep. She had to bring more food in. They were grazing so fast through it.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting experiment for sure.
Yeah.
And Terry shared her contact information for you
Mm-hmm.
to check out. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to contact Petrus and or one of us, and we'll forward any questions. Is your website where we can find more research articles or anything like that accessible to people?
Yeah, for this project, we have a soil to market website. I will put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Petrus, did you want to do a quick pitch for the deep composting research that you're going to be starting?
Oh yeah, Terry. Terry and I spoke in January, and very curious about how deep composting is affecting nutrient levels in the ground and also production. So just last night I emailed her the qual that we're supposedly going to do and waiting for some feedback on that. But very excited. We are looking at maybe doing about 20 growers or so. Doesn't matter what size you are. If you are interested to participate in this research, basically we have a questionnaire that we will fill out with you, and we will come to your farm and take some samples and have it analyzed and get some feedback on that. You can easily send your name to Terry if you are interested, or myself. Yeah.
Thank you, Petrus. I really enjoyed today. I'm so appreciative of you being able to share your research with us. This is so interesting.
Thank you. And we're only scratching the surface here. There's a lot more on the micronutrient side that's also very interesting. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to continue putting them in the chat. I guess we'll just kick it off with our regional updates. So I'll share my screen again and go from there. Okay. All right, I think Ellie, go ahead and kick it off with program updates statewide.
Yeah, I'll just jump in with a recap for anyone that, hasn't heard, or just to reiterate that our program is undergoing some pretty significant changes with the loss of our 4 soil health specialists. So everybody will have their last day be at the end of September, and I'll try to fill our huge shoes and huge hole left by our team that are out in the fields by continuing the program on. And the local working groups, we still have 50,000 that has been allocated. That was originally through September of this year. That can continue to go through the end of calendar year 2025. So we'll keep in touch with the working groups and answer questions on that. But just want to say for all our team, a huge, huge thank you, heartfelt thank you for really continuing to stay grounded through this transition, and so much focus on the actual work and supporting our community of growers and producers that are out there doing field days. You all are who make urban soil health impactful over these past few years. So please be in touch with our team and give them, inspirational messages of the impacts that we have had, because that's not going away. And any job opportunities or other connections, feel free to share with all of us. And next slide. I won't go into these details. I'll pop a link in the chat, but just a recap of how I'll aim to continue our work. Really the big impacts are going to be with the working groups, that we won't have financial assistance directly, and just trying to support them to seek their own continuity and utilize the 150,000 or so that has been already paid out. And some of those dollars still exist in pots that can be used to continue work. Petrus, we'll stay in touch on the compost research. We have lead testing partnerships with Indiana University. Living Farm series will continue. We'll keep the urban updates going monthly. Get the dirt annually will continue to happen. Yeah, and then farmer technical assistance, right? That's where we're going to really have big impacts. So we'll be leaning on the field to support soil and water extension, NRCS, others with getting out on field with farmers as much as possible, and just try to lean into farmer to farmer support too. Next. So, with a couple months that we have left, we're just wrapping up events delivery. with working groups, having our team meet individually with those groups, answer questions. I'm here to help on that. Try to get funding ideas going. Plug for Clean Water Indiana. That deadline's coming up in September. And then keep on talking with our partners for how we can create joint plans of work. And then big plug for our events in September. And I think that's about it. So keep nurturing this community and look forward to continuing to work with you. And I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Ellie. Yeah, I guess I'll kick it off with the regional updates. So I'm starting with the Northwest, which is my region. We had a few exciting events. One I really wanted to highlight was the Gary Merrillville tour up in Lake County. And this tour, put together by the local working group, covered 3 different farms, which were Dijon Farm here over on the right, where we got to see a 20-acre farm in some part of it was in transition, and some part of it has been for the past few years practicing a lot of really amazing soil health techniques such as cover cropping, mulching, compost applications, and diversity of crops, including wildlife habitat, and introducing more flowers. And we got to talk about all the different soil types that existed on this farm. And then we went over to Oasis Garden, where we saw an urban setting where there's herbal, green, basically like a kind of permaculture, or there were fruit trees, nut trees, and different systems where the group is trying to really get the community to understand that you can take an abandoned parking lot and grow using whatever you have on hand. So very, very resilient building, and showing the diversity of plants that you can have in unexpected ways. They even have someone gardening in ground, many beds, growing foods from around the world, especially like from Bangladesh or Southeast Asia. So, trying to get the community involved in knowing you can grow foods that are comfortable or familiar to you. And then we wandered over to another farm just in someone's backyard, Sam Love, who's part of the local working group. And Sam has a really beautiful backyard where he's been over the years just transforming it little by little. And his soil is beautiful. So he also has slightly more sandier soil than some of the other places. And growing in buckets, practicing mulch, all of these different techniques. And it's really amazing for him to have seen that transformation happen, where at first he was really nervous and scared, and then ended up being one of the highlights of the neighborhood. So yeah, it was a really inspiring tour. People had a great time, and we want to thank Marion County's SWCD for helping to support the charter bus and the Clean Water Indiana grant for making that happen. All right, on to the next with Terry.
Oh man, I feel like I blinked and July was over, and here we are in August. And there were so many great things happening in the Northeast, but one of my favorites was there was a field day that I partnered with a bunch of different organizations to pull off. So Evie and I from PIF had a conversation a while ago, and I've been wanting to host a field day at Mary Lee since I started here in 23. And we were finally able to bring it to fruition. There's a new farm manager that started in March at Mary Lee. So we got her involved, and she's got a background at Seed Savers and chefing and sustainability and hospitality. And she was an absolute brilliant host. And we also called in our friends from the Savannah Institute, Purdue Extension, and ISDA. At Mary Lee, they have a very diverse growing operation where they've got raised beds and gardening, but then they also have their food forest area and large acreage that has permaculture, agroforestry included. And it was just a really great diversity of folks that showed up. We had over 40 people there, learning from Christy and all the great things they're doing at Mary Lee. And we had even a wagon ride to different parts of the farm. And it was really neat too. We asked ISDA to come in and help, and Purdue Extension do percolation tests. So they showed folks how to be able to put the rings into the soil and what it showed. And we're able to see one part of the farm, the water drained in about 30 seconds. And then the other part, it was almost 30 minutes. And it was like 200 feet away, and just how different soils react to being able to filter out water. And I so appreciate all of the folks that came together and all the folks that showed up. It was a really fun day. And then during lunch, we had Christy, because of her experience at the Seed Savers, talked about the importance of saving seeds. And she even highlighted that there are different seed companies that can contract with farmers who are looking to diversify their income by producing seeds. So there's a company called Driftless Seeds out of Wisconsin that contracts with growers to be able to do seed production. So just a consideration for folks that are looking as alternatives to diversify their financials with small farms. But it was a really wonderful day. Beautiful weather, beautiful food, beautiful people, beautiful conversations, and I so appreciate it. Thank you.
I want to echo that. I went and it was amazing. It was absolutely so inspiring, and I still think about it and refer back to it now. Terry, if you want to place that link for the Driftless Seeds, that would be really cool in the chat for people to check out.
Yeah, will do. Thanks.
Thanks. The Southwest highlight is from Casey's. She's not here with us today, but she just asked that I kind of really quickly overview it. This is from the State Fair demonstration garden that she and Ellie have been really like working hard to kind of just bring into that demonstration space. So there's a lot of mulching that happened, a lot of different types of plants that a lot of them have come up from seed, which has been amazing. And it's right next to where they've been putting in some pollinator plants, native plants. And so it's just a beautiful space, and hopefully with all the signage that's being put up, the composting that they're trying to get going, you know, people as they're walking around during the state fair can be inspired that even in a small space you can grow so much and have a lot just in your backyard. So yeah. Next is Megan's at the Southeast.
Hey everybody. We had a great July in the Southeast, and I participated in the Living Farm series, which was lovely. But what I wanted to share was my participation in Findlay Market's Farmers Market Week celebration. So for those of you who don't know, we're in the middle of National Farmers Market Week. So congratulations to all of you who are celebrating. Findlay Market is in Cincinnati, Ohio. It is the longest continuously running market in the state. It started in 1852. And so I went and engaged with just a bunch of people, just thousands of people go every single weekend. So it was really, really nice. We were talking to people who were trying to figure out their SNAP benefits. We were talking to people who were interested in soil health, giving away cover crop seeds, and connecting others to some of the resources that we had. I actually talked to a bunch of Indianans who were there because Findlay Market is also a tourist destination because it's such an old market. So I ran into a lot of growers from Indiana, and we could talk about soil health principles and get them in touch with the soil health specialist in their areas. So team, be looking for those emails. But I had a really good time, and I'm going to go back on Saturday because Saturday is the last day of the Market Week celebration. And hopefully I'll get to talk to thousands more people. It was a great day, a long day, and I'm excited to see more. So for those of you who are mobile, check out Finley Market if you are interested in seeing like a really interesting outdoor market with just a huge variety of foods. And then obviously don't forget about the Living Farm series that we're going to be having in Lafayette. Is it next week? Week after next. And so that'll be a great opportunity to see some boots on the ground conservation practices as well. So that's all from me, and I look forward to seeing everybody throughout the state in the next coming weeks.
Heck yeah. That sounds so fun. Just like another level of energy with that many people around. I bet that was amazing. Yeah, so speaking of things coming up, check out our newsletter. If you haven't signed up, you can sign up on our website to get regular updates. Ellie's just gonna keep going with all of this information. And so we have National Farmers Market Week, as Megan said, happening now. And then on August 16th, we have an amazing Turn Scraps into Soil Composting Basics workshop up in South Bend, Indiana. And August 17th is the Living Farm Series work day or field day at Purdue Student Farm, like Megan was mentioning. And then August 23rd is a live installation pollinator field day up in Knox County, or Knox, Indiana. So that'll be really interesting to learn more. August 26th is Women for the Land high tunnel build in Marion, in Indiana. All this is in Indiana. September 2nd to the 5th is creating a biofactoria and chromatography of fertilizers. And September 3rd is another urban updates. September 4th is our Get the Dirt in Madison County. So mark your calendars and RSVP for that. September 17th is the Grow Local Garden Soil Health Principles Tour in Lafayette. And September 21st is a compost workshop here in Crawfordsville, where I'm at. September 28th and 30th is Living Farm Series in Deputy, but it's only the 28th for now. And that's going to be at Megan's farm, so it should be really fun. And September 30th is the last day of funding for our soil health specialist. So after that, it'll just be Ellie, but otherwise, we'll be around. At Get the Dirt, woohoo! We've got an amazing lineup of speakers, and our keynote speakers are going to be Liz and Nate, owners of Nightfall Farm. They're going to speak on conservation as our grounding principle and building a farm and life in Southeast Indiana. They have an amazing farm and value system that'll resonate with anyone who comes. So check us out. We'll be there at the Madison County Fairgrounds from 9 to 2, and then Full Hand Farm for our social, and a farm tour at Full Hand Farm from 2 to 5. 3 to 5. And basically find our information, register on our website, and we'll hopefully see you there. And I'll open it up to any partner shares. What do y'all got going on that you want everyone else to be aware of? And if anything, you guys can always just message us, email us, and we'll still put that out at our newsletter and the next urban updates. Yeah. no partner updates. Maybe we covered all of them. We've been really on top of it this time. So thank you all for joining. Our next urban updates is September 3rd, and we'll announce a topic and speaker or what we'll be covering here shortly. So be on the lookout. As you know, find us online, email, our website, our newsletter, resources, and our Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be sharing a lot of different technical resources and how our tours and events and everything are going. So stay strong, stay healthy, stay happy, and just remember soil health is for everyone. So let's keep going. Thank you all so much for joining today.